Thank you. And give me one single second. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, based on your time zone. So, I'm Pankaj Arora. A little bit about me is for the past several years, I have led many supply chain implementation work at Deloitte. So that means I have spent many years there in the ERP implementations, and I have seen these transformations from the inside, and I have seen them, to be honest, succeed very much, and I have also seen them fail. So now, just from my topic perspective, must have heard the phrase called garbage in, garbage out many times because it's been there around early days of computing, I would say. But after years in the trenches, what I want to tell you is the truth is actually even worse. Unfortunately, that's the true fact. So it's not about the garbage in, garbage out. Rather, it should be called as garbage in, failure out. So here today, I'm going to talk about one thing that was basically a big pain in the industry, but now because of the introduction of the AI, things are drastically changing and how AI is helping us in order to clear that mess. Okay, so starting from this slide, I'm going to talk about a little bit that you must have seen that every few years the technology changes, right? So I have been on a lot of these projects, and what I noticed is we have a technology which basically either on the ERP side, if you'll go to any industry, there are certain upgrades, certain transformations which are always happening. Now, every few years, if I'll just give you a number, maybe like from ERP perspective, 10 to 15 years is a window when an organization changes their ERP. When I say ERP, that means they are changing the new screens, they are changing the new workflows, they are changing the brand on the badge, but at the same time, the data remains the same. So now how this data is basically causing trouble, I'm going to a little bit talk about it, and I'll provide you the understanding that how AI to based tool is basically helping us out. Okay, so if you'll see here, this slide provides an understanding that how exactly we have transformed ourselves from many years. I went like maybe 50, 60 years in the past. So let me zoom out for a moment. So look at what we have lived through. So we started with mainframe. The client servers came somewhere around in 90s, early 90s. Then on-prem ERP came somewhere around like mid 90s, around 2000, where things were basically getting picked up. The cloud-based ERP also came in, and then finally we are in the world of AI. But at the same time, if you'll see every single time, the things which we are replacing is the system. But the data for all these many years is keeping the same. We are cleaning a little bit, not up to the mark, but ultimately it is causing the trouble every day. So I'm not standing here saying that these waves did not matter. They did. But here is what I want you to notice is that we have replaced the engine maybe 5 or 6 times, but we have never replaced the fuel. Okay, so this slides basically provide you that how important the data is. So data is the gravity, I would say. So I have created this slide in order to show you that every single system, irrespective of the technology, the systems are revolving around the data which we have. So that means every single wave of technology orbits around the same gravitational center, and which is nothing but the data. And 80% of the ERP implementation problem occurs and even failure happens. If we'll trace it back, we'll find that the main issue was because of the data. So it's not related to the software, it's not related to the configuration, it is not related to that change management, but the data comes out to be at the number one place when it comes to any failure. So you are not implementing an ERP, you are moving your data in a house, and most of us never clean before we move. And that's what is happening when we are changing the system but not changing the data. So changing means when we are not cleaning the data, we are not cleaning it to a percentage where it can provide you the best available benefit. Okay, so moving on to the next one. So here are some numbers I put together to show you that how much it will cost us in order to continue with the data which we have in the system. So what does this bad data actually cost is like 13 million average annual cost of poor data quality to any typical enterprise which we have seen. And now if I'll come to the percentage, like overall, when it comes to the duplicates, especially duplicates, 30% of the master data you'll find that absolutely can be deleted on day one, but it's not as easy as I'm saying that delete the data. And that's where this tool is going to help you out. And then when I say this 30% from everyone's workday perspective, so that means the day what everyone spends on the work, that 20%, 27% of their time gets wasted in order to find the right combination of the data, and they are juggling around. So that means we are talking about 1/4 of the total effort, whatever the person who is working on the data specifically spend, just waste that effort is considered as a wasted effort. So the output is coming maybe somewhere around 70%, 73%. Now, for any digital transformation program, the return of investment, which it should be, but we are not getting to that mark just because like we don't have that data available in order to get everything in place in a right way. And that's why we are here, in order to see that how this particular tool can help us out. So so now let's talk about a little bit around what we see in the healthcare supply chain side, because this is where I have spent most of my time. And when we talk about healthcare supply chain, there are mainly three forces which basically gets impacted. The first one is the clinical safety, the second one is the regulatory pressure, and then the third one is the margin compression. So all three together ultimately have a impact. And when the data is wrong in most industries, you lose money. When the data is wrong in healthcare, somebody might get hurt, and that's the difference. So just an example I took here where one single item may have 10 records created in the system. So if you'll see same nitrile glove, same suppliers, same shelf in the storeroom, all in the active status. So that means, why does this happen? Should be our first question in our mind. The main reason is like there could be spelling variation. There could be different buyers over different years. There could be different unit of measures. There could be some people who are buying as a box versus some people buying as a pair versus cases, because of many mergers and the acquisitions which are happening between the hospital network. So this is basically a collective, I would say, time frame, and the many different activities which we have performed during that duration cause this issue. Now, coming back to like every single entry from the business perspective definitely makes sense. And there is there is no question about it. When that data was created, there was definitely a reason. And there is no way that this data can be cleaned in one single I would say second, or in a days or a month's time. And that's why, like, so far we have been living with this data from many years. So this was the overall real problem which we have seen. So if you'll see some of these examples where the spelling for the large is LG versus the complete large, I would say, like, the case, when we say specifically, if your name is a uppercase versus the lowercase, even the earlier ERPs were not supporting, but now the cloud-based ERP supports. So that means we can clean some of the data there in the ERP, but at the same time, we cannot completely clean this data to an extent like 95% or 100% cleans. We cannot do that. And we cannot use that cleansed data in the system. Okay, so moving on to the next one. So why it is tough to directly delete any data. So if suppose one single item has many duplicates available, all duplicates have already been used at many different transactions. So if you'll see this entire tangled situation where one single data, which was the same example which I took in the last one, have been used throughout these transactions, starting from the requisition to the PO to the receipt and many more. So now, because of that single reason, you cannot directly consider that, okay, let me delete all the duplicates or all the specific ones which I have selected, I know is not right. Let me delete that. That is not gonna work that way. So how it can work is, like, if I'll get into the detail, like, this is how we can solve this problem. So when we know that we cannot delete, because there are many, as I said, different transactions which have been created based on the data. So for many years which we have been using, there are so many things which we have seen, and based on those specifics, what I can tell you is that there should be. So what we were thinking, like maybe 6 months back, that there should be a tool which should work based on this AI power, like should be a AI powered tool, and that tool should allow us to find out those specific cases where the data is not correct. Now, once that tool provides you the understanding that where the data is not correct, also provide you the dashboard where it will provide you full understanding that, okay, how many total different transactions have been using this data. Now, the ones which are selected by this tool as a strong candidate which needs to be kept versus the other needs to be deleted. So that also should happen as part of the tool. And then finally, like when I talk about the platform agnostic, so that means there should not be any limitation of this tool where it is limited to either, I would say, Salesforce or SAP or PeopleSoft or Workday, whatever could be the ERP, this tool should be technology agnostic. And then there should not be any disruption when it comes to fixing this entire problem. We don't want to take like years of times or months of time. Rather, it should be quick enough so that business should not get any impact from the downtown perspective. So there should not be any downtime when we'll implement or when we'll make the changes to the data. So that's what this tool does. So let me give you a little bit more understanding around like what exactly this is going to do. So if you'll see, what I have called out here is that if this tool is going to be technology agnostic, irrespective, like where we have Workday, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, or could be any other system. So now, based on the tool, this tool basically will fetch the info, will analyze will reconcile that, okay, where it can be done, how the data can be removed, how data can be deleted, and then how the main candidate, whatever would be selected by the tool, will be presented to the right audience there on the customer side, where they can select like whether we see that this is the right selection or not. And once they'll consider that everything looks good, and they'll execute the plan is not only limited to take care of removing the data, rather it will be linking the set of the transactions which have been created in the past. And this tool is not going to be limited to any one specific side. Rather, it could be item master, it could be supplier data, it could be customer data or the contract data. So it is irrespective of the data, like it'll specifically take care of all the needs on the supply chain side, especially on the healthcare supply chain side. So currently this tool is basically in the pilot mode, but at the same time, like the time we are currently working in order to make this tool available to all the industries, and all that stuff is basically going to happen very soon. So let me quickly give you like what exactly is happening inside the tool. So it detects, it scores, it will basically elect the right candidate, which is the strongest one, and then it will basically start repointing it so that it should be mapped with the right transactions. Then finally, if the plan will be liked by the customers, you can directly run this as an execution mod. So during that execution, it will take care of replacing all these specifics wherever this data has been used with the corresponding transactions and all that stuff. Now, coming to like how exactly this can be a zero disruption, starting from like this tool can start there on the Friday evening, and during that time, like once everyone like close off the day, that time we will start this process. This tool basically takes this entire thing. The cleansing will start on the Saturday morning. Once we'll have the data available to the tool, like once the cleansing will be done, then the Sunday will be mainly focused on the validation. And that Sunday, not only the validation, rather the transaction which needs to be linked back, that happens. And then finally on the Monday morning, if everything looks good, then this clean data will be available. So that means now we are talking about the clean data is available, but in the new infrastructure. Okay. So currently, as I said, this is mainly in the healthcare industry, but at the same is applicable universally, not limited to healthcare. It could be manufacturing, it could be retail, pharma, or auto. So irrespective which industry may be, the same problem, the same shape, and the same solution. Now, coming to the clean data is the new infrastructure, because like as we saw so many times that failure happens because of this data. So the transformation from the ERP to ERP perspective is great, but at the same time, we should have a focus on the data too, where the data can also be taken care by the system. So finally, like here, I would say that specifically from overall this presentation perspective, my message is that when we replace the engine, we should also clean the fuel, and we cannot have an engine working fine if the fuel is not cleaned enough in order to give you the best performance. So that comprises the presentation which I have created for this audience. But thank you for the opportunity, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Arora, for your engaging presentation and practical insights into AI driven enterprise transformation. Your expertise has provided valuable lessons for